Thank you for selecting GBC24. Time to bring you News Hour. In the headlines, Ghana's partnership with countries fighting terrorism makes the country a potential target for terrorists, says security expert.
African leaders asked to put in place ambitious policies that will protect the forest on the continent and reduce the impact of climate change on water bodies and promote food security.
And Brazil's former president Lula da Silva takes the post of chief of staff in Dilma Rousseff's government. Now the stories. President John Mahama left Accra on Wednesday for Glasgow, Scotland, at the invitation of the University of Aberdeen. Mr. Mahama is expected to receive an honorary Doctor of Law degree from the Scottish University. The ceremony will take place on Friday at a special convocation of the King's College of the university.
As part of his visit, President Mahama would hold a meeting with the First Minister of Scotland and visit the Scottish Parliament, where he will observe the First Minister's question time. He will also address a group of parliamentarians and interact with leaders of political parties. President Mahama will be the second Ghanaian leader after President Jerry John Rawlings to visit Scotland in such an official capacity.
The president is accompanied by his wife, Lordina, and the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Education and Communications. With Vice President on an official visit to India, the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Do Ajaho, will act as president in accordance with the Constitution. A former National Security Coordinator and retired Commissioner of Police, Kofi Bentum Kwansen, says Ghana's partnership with countries fighting terrorism makes the country a potential target for terrorists.
In an exclusive interview, GBC24, Mr. Kwansen called for sensitization as part of overall measures to ensure that Ghanaians do not get exposed to radicalization, and even those who have been should be de-radicalized. Now, Ghana's strong democracy and well-defined local governance system continues to receive commendation from various quarters the world over.
The latest is a delegation from Togo, which is in the country to understudy Ghana's local governance system, electoral process and governance structures. The outcome will feed into Togo's drive to build an efficient local governance system.
For more than 2 decades, local elections in Togo has been put on hold due to several reasons. To the government, it is a contributing factor to the slow pace of development within the localities, whereas the opposition parties have also been on the neck of government to hold the elections as soon as possible. For now, President appointees called inspectors are in charge of the 5 administrative regions, whilst a team of prefect and inspector supervise the 30 prefectures. On the other hand, Ghana's decentralization system has made remarkable progress with an increase in women participation, allocation of more resources, and devolution of power. Since the first local elections in 1987 and move to democratic rule in 1992, the country has stayed on course to conducting free and transparent elections as enshrined in the Constitution. Its well-defined local governance system consists of metropolitan, municipal district assemblies, sub-metros, zonal councils, and unit committees. There is also the Regional Coordinating Council. This decentralization structure, coupled with the rights and respect of the voter, is what Togo is seeking to acquire.
In Togo, the elections are conducted by the political people. And at the end of every election, there is a fight. They have been following Ghana elections since then, and they know that there is difference. They also want to try what Ghanaians are doing and see whether it will work for them.
In Ghana, power derives from the grassroots. We think that developing the localities means developing the whole country. And that is the driving force for always trying to improve upon decentralization in Ghana.
On their return, the delegation is expected to finalize a decentralization policy and put in place structures to help Togo conduct its local elections in 2018. The team will be in Ghana for 3 days and is also expected to engage with the Electoral Commission on Ghana's election success story.
From that story, the former Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Kofi Annan, says climate change has dire effect on water bodies and food prices and should be seen as an economic challenge that needs serious attention.
In an exclusive interview, GBC24 on the sidelines of an international forestry conference in Accra, Mr. Annan urged African leaders to fashion out policies that will enable the continent to overcome the scourge of climate change.
No, I think you've touched on one of the key issues, how deforestation affects the environment, affects the rainfall patterns, it affects the biodiversity. And if governments are conscious of that, the farmers know. I mean, I've been on field trips where there are a couple of different seeds. Some took a long time to harvest, others shorter, but more expensive, And we were in Mali, and we asked this farmer, 5 varieties, which would you choose? He said, I don't want this one because it takes a long time to harvest, and the rains do not come the way my father and grandfather took. This one has a shorter harvesting period, it's more expensive, but I'm sure I will not lose my money. I'll be able to harvest during the short period that we have the rains now. So they understand it. And I think the governments have to understand the impact deforestation has on our environment and encourage people to protect the forest and replant trees, and also really take measures to prevent illegal logging. It must not be where they are wild. There has to be disincentive that discourages them from cutting down these trees. Some countries have managed to do it. Brazil has been very active in Amazon, Amazon forest, where similar activities go on, trying to stop it. And other governments have done it, and we can do it. And we should do it. And also have the right incentives to encourage communities and business people to plant new forests and protect the old ones. Talking of illegal loggers, what do we do to them? What steps do we take to prevent that impunity of ignoring the laws and cutting it? Often in cahoots with some of the same officers who were supposed to stop them. So we have to apply the laws. We have to be very strict. We have to fight impunity. If you do that, you see them change their habits. They will stop cutting because they can't get it out. The forest is the future of our children. We cannot keep exploiting it as if there's no tomorrow. And we have to be worthy of the trust we have and make sure that we keep a healthy environment for the generation that is going to come after us.
Has joined us, you're watching News Hour, coming to you from Broadcasting House here in Accra. To other stories, Easter is barely 2 weeks away, and officials from the various state agencies in the transport sector in the Upper West region
have stepped up the campaign to encourage commercial drivers from flouting road traffic regulations.
It is common to see commercial drivers trying to outdo one another in order to get more passengers. As Easter approaches, the drivers of transport unions, including the GPRTU and Protoa, have met to drum home the need for them to maintain sanity on the road. They distributed flyers on code of conduct for both drivers and passengers at the various bus terminals. Mr. Muhammad Abdul Samad is the Upper West Regional Manager of the National Road Safety Commission.
Anytime it's festive season, we keep having crashes here and there because we have volumes of people traveling here and there to families and their loved ones. And then at this point, normally when it's like that, we have crashes occurring on our roads. And we think that it is appropriate to intensify our education, our effort together with our stakeholder institutions. We are doing a joint exercise of enforcement, education, and then doing pre-departure checks and whatnot at lorry stations.
The Regional Commander of the Motor Traffic and Transport Department, MTTD, of the Ghana Police Service is DSP Joseph Okon.
No matter what, whether the person is a traffic police officer, MTTU person or barrier person, if he wants to keep your license, ask for a document that will prove that your license is with him so that you'll be able to trace the license.
For his part, the regional manager of the Driver Vehicle and Licensing Authority, Mr. Thomas Nintori, said drivers put the lives of passengers at risk when they use vehicles that are not roadworthy. Mr. Nintori therefore urged drivers to ensure that their vehicle documents are up to date before they put them on the road.
Now back to the capital. A former National Security Coordinator and retired Commissioner of Police, Mr. Kofi Bentum Kwansen, says Ghana's partnership with countries fighting terrorism makes the country a potential target for terrorists.
In an exclusive interview, GBC24, Mr. Kwansen called for sensitization as part of overall measures to ensure that Ghanaians do not get exposed to radicalization, and even those who have been should be de-radicalized.
Terrorism is indeed not a current phenomenon. For decades, the global community has been battling this canker. Hundreds of thousands of lives and property running into millions of dollars have been lost to terrorism. The 2001 9/11, the 2002 Bali bombing and the 2016 Paris attacks are still fresh on the minds of many, especially security experts and analysts and those who were directly affected. Now the menace is spreading quickly, with more rebel groups emerging to add on to the already existing ones. The Islamic State of Syria and Levant, ISIS, Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb and Boko Haram, among others, are operating fiercely and claiming responsibility of attacks across the globe. Now it's quite clear that terrorism transcends boundaries and is no respecter of persons. Previously, the terrorist attacks appear a bit far from the West African sub-region, but only last year, on November 20, 2015, Islamist militants took 170 hostages and killed 20 of them in a mass shooting at the Radisson Blu Hotel in Bamako, the capital city of Mali. In January this year, attackers raided a luxury hotel in Burkina Faso overnight, shooting some and taking others hostage in a siege that lasted hours and ended with 29 people dead. An Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group in Maghreb region claimed responsibility for the assault and the Splendid Hotel in Ouagadougou. On the heels of that, a beach resort in the Ivorian capital Abidjan at Grand Bassam registered another attack, claiming the lives of at least 15 civilians, 3 soldiers and 1 of the terrorists. Al-Qaeda's North Africa branch claimed responsibility after 6 gunmen opened fire on civilians there. Ghana shares borders with both Cote d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso and has signed on to a number of treaties and conventions that cannot restrict foreigners. And so what can the country do as a measure to beef up security?
The greatest security efficiency you can have depends upon the consciousness of the people, because security thrives on intelligence.
So what really are the factors that account for terrorist attacks?
Ghana is a global partner in the war against terrorism. We're a partner. So there's partnership. So whether we like it or not, we are a target for the terrorists. It's like my enemy's friend is my enemy situation. So the fact that we are part of the global efforts on terrorism puts it into a target situation by those extremists. Secondly, the motivations of the terrorists is a mixed bag of ideology, religion, race, and culture. Terrorists may be looking for maybe French nationals or American nationals, but French nationals are not located in one place in the world, they're everywhere. So the terrorists will be looking at where maybe French nationals or American nationals frequent. If the bombings in Burkina Faso and La Côte d'Ivoire gives you an indication about those targets.
How will the country be able to pick early signals in its fight against terrorist attacks?
There is no sanctity about security. And you cannot be in the minds of the terrorists as to what they want to do. Yours is a consciousness that you can be attacked. See, there's no sanctity in security that this will happen. So we say this can happen. The potential is there, and therefore you prepare yourself against it.
According to the former National Security Coordinator, Ghana, like other countries, are vulnerable to those attacks.
The first weapon against insecurity is education. Education. You see, education that can expose the horrors of terrorism, it affects on people. Education that can de-radicalize those likely to be radicalized. See, there has to be a de-radicalization. And it doesn't matter whether they are poor people. Oftentimes, I hear people saying that people are walking about unemployed and they can be radicalized. In other countries, rich people, it doesn't matter your social. Osama bin Laden was from a very rich family. How did he become so violent?
With attacks at hotels and beach resorts, security-conscious persons like retired Commissioner of Police Kofi Bentum Kwanson is asking all hotels, shopping malls, beach resorts and owners of places of social gathering to revive their security structures to avoid terrorist attacks.
Still watching News Hour on GBC24 and GTV. We have business coming up. Please stay with us.
Hello, good evening and welcome. It's the third working day of the week and we bring you some business update. I am Dorothy Ajimang. The FPSO Kwame Nkrumah will be out of operation for 14 days according to a statement from the Jubilee partners. The shutdown is to allow for planned maintenance work to be undertaken on key equipment of the vessel. This shutdown, according to the statement, is essential to ensure the reliability and integrity of the FPSO. Moving on, three-time world boxing champion Professor Azumah Nelson has been outdoored as the Goil brand ambassador. By being an ambassador, the management of Goil hopes to further deepen its penetration into the Ghanaian oil industry and Africa at large.
Over the last 5 decades, Goil has shown resilience, having braved the storms of a turbulent industry, even in the face of deregulation, to remain the leading oil marketing company with 20% share of the retail market. As such, Goil has attained its position as a market leader and has become the benchmark in the oil industry. As part of making sure that customers get the best of its services, Goil has officially outdoored Professor Azumah Nelson as the company's brand ambassador. The managing director of Goil, Mr. Patrick A.K. Akwali, said the company was proud to be associated with Professor Azumah Nelson.
By making him the face of Goil, we want to tell him and Ghanaians at large that we are walking his footsteps. GOEL is also informing Ghanaians that we will defend the country's interest and uphold its honor just as this great patriot did.
The Greater Accra Regional Minister, Nilaye Afotiagbo, urged GOEL to keep up the good work they have started. In an interview, the brand ambassador of GOEL, Professor Zuma Nelson, encouraged Ghanaians to support GOEL to attain higher heights.
You know, I have to go to the big companies, those who buy the oil, big in big quantities, you know, and talk to them, and then so that they will come and buy at Goa. You know, I start talking to people already. They told me to bring some letters, you know, so that they change. They will change.
GOEL is the first wholly owned Ghanaian company listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange and a leader in the oil marketing terrain.
Cosmos Energy Ghana has unveiled a flagship corporate and entrepreneurial program known as Cosmos Innovative Center, KIC. The program seeks to provide solutions to Ghana's agricultural sector with job creation and poverty reduction as the main drivers. Cosmos Energy is an international oil exploration and production company with huge presence in West Africa. The company also holds acreage in Morocco, Cameroon, Nigeria and Benin. Cosmos played a crucial role in discovering the deepwater Jubilee oil field offshore in Ghana. One critical function of Cosmos Energy is its corporate social responsibility to the communities in which it operates. The latest to come off the sleeves of the oil giant is the Cosmos Innovation Center, KIC. KIC seeks to use ICT to inspire budding entrepreneurs to transform Ghana's agricultural sector. To get results that drive change, the KIC would leverage on local partnerships for expertise and resources, employ innovative challenges and deploy strong communication campaign to help change the face of agriculture. The Vice President and Country Manager for Cosmos Energy Ghana, Mr. Joe Mensah, in an interview said KIC would create a new breed of young entrepreneurs who would accelerate Ghana's economic growth and impact the society positively.
We know the whole value chain of agriculture. There are several issues along the value chain. If an entrepreneur, the youth, will concentrate on one particular issue and find a way to resolve that, it will have ramifications throughout the whole sector. Because when we develop a solution, it's not a solution for an individual just to keep. Other people can emulate that. And as long as we are developing entrepreneur one at a time, we can have a critical mass to start effecting change.
Launching the Cosmos Innovation Center, the Minister for Agriculture, Alhaji Mohammed Muniru Limuna, is optimistic that the initiative will help young entrepreneurs to create jobs for the unemployed youth in the country.
One key interesting feature of Cosmos Innovation Center is the fact that it will engage our youth through innovation and ICT. This will greatly erode the erroneous impression that agriculture is only about tilling land, but rather to see agriculture as serious business.
The Cosmos Innovation Center will focus on three-part approaches: collaboration, thus fostering partnerships to tackle challenges together; incubation, that is nurturing promising start-up companies; and acceleration, which is investing in small business to provide solutions to market problems. You're watching the business segment of the news. Moving on, an international conference on new forests for Africa opened in Accra amid calls for the continent to put in place ambitious policies to protect the forest and reduce the impact of climate change. Africa is one of the most vulnerable continents to climate change. This situation is further worsened by the low level of economic development and low adaptive capacity. Africa's human existence and development is under threat from the adverse impact of climate change. Its pollution, ecosystems, and unique biodiversity will all be the major victims of climate change. At the opening of the conference on Wednesday, there were calls for African leaders to move from commitment to action-driven policies if Africa is to realize the potential for new forests.
Play a very important role in sustainable development. Afforestation and tree planting are efforts that can combat climate change and restore wildlife habitats. The world community at a meeting in Paris last year agreed that the global warming of the Earth's atmosphere should be kept below a limit of 2 degrees Celsius in order to stem dramatic consequences of climate change. Deforestation is one of the largest contributors to climate change. The negative effects of deforestation, need for forest protection and restoration were the high points of discussion at a conference on the need in creating new forests for Africa. Participants were from the Netherlands, Europe, South Africa and Tanzania, as well as Ghana's Forestry Commission. Mr. Samuel Afaridate is the CEO of the Forestry Commission.
Ghana has been battling with deforestation and forest degradation driven by factors such as illegal logging, illegal mining, wildfires, and unsustainable farming practices, among others. The vision of the Forestry Commission of Ghana is to leave future generations and their communities with richer, better, and more valuable forests and wildlife endowments than we inherited. This is a very ambitious and challenging vision, and the country is therefore making strenuous efforts at significantly reducing deforestation and forest degradation, and has embarked on a number of development projects to restore our lost forest cover by employing strategies that create green jobs and boost food production in the rural areas of Ghana.
Up next is the Intermarket. See that of commodity. In insurance news, did you know that funeral insurance policy is a sign of relief to families when death occurs? People wonder who claims are made after the insurer passes on without any member of the family knowing of the policy. But insurance companies say they do call the next of kin to make claims. In what may be a small but significant sign of progress, senior Iranian clerics have ruled that relatives of fatal car crash victims should receive the same amount of insurance compensation regardless of whether the deceased was a man or woman.
Prior to the new resolution, the family of a Muslim man killed in an accident invariably entitled his relatives to greater compensation. But now, according to a report in the Reformist Daily Shark, after 4 months of deliberation, the country's Guardian Council, a body of senior clerics that verifies the legitimacy of laws, ruled this week in favor of a parliamentary bill to level the amounts insurance firms must pay in car crashes. The assumption that it is men who work and provide for families' material needs lay behind the higher sums previously meted out to the relatives of male victims, and the law favored Muslim men over minorities including Armenians and Jews. The most striking aspect of the new amendment is the recognition by legislators and clerics that women are now often at the head of Iranian families and therefore play the role of providers the same way men do.
By SIC Live, we have more news coming up. Please do stay.
Good evening. You are welcome to the health segment of the news brought to you by FPAC. My name is Evans Achampon. Now to our first story. Accra, Kumasi, Sekondi Takoradi, and Techiman have been identified as areas where teenage pregnancy is on the increase. The teenage pregnancy rate in these areas range from 6 to 22%, and that is considered too high. The Deputy Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Mrs. Dela Soa, revealed the development at a meeting in Kumasi to create awareness about the problem and the need to fight it.
Teenage pregnancy is a pregnancy occurring in girls aged from 13 to 19 years, most of whom have not legally contracted marriage. The 2014 demographic survey conducted by the Ghana Health Service across the country showed that even though teenage pregnancy is prevalent in all parts of the country, the social problem is very high in especially urban centers. Volta region has a teenage pregnancy rate of 22%, while Ashanti has a rate of 12%. The problem is similarly high in Accra, Sekondi, Takoradi and Techiman. The major causes of teenage pregnancy include poverty, broken homes, peer pressure, curiosity, physiological changes and poor parental guidance. It results in various negative consequences for the individuals involved, the family and the nation. The sensitization workshop in Kumasi, organized by the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection with support from some partners, was aimed at generating ideas on how to deal with the situation. Stakeholders included queens, teachers, school pupils, social groups, NGOs and the media. In a presentation, a principal nursing officer at the Maternal and Child Hospital in Kumasi, Mrs. Faustino Semensa, took the participants through the causes, effects and how to prevent teenage pregnancy among the Ghanaian adolescent. The Deputy Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Mrs. Dela Soa, noted that her ministry has prioritized the problem and is initiating various strategies to solve it.
With the support of the African Development Bank, the ministry is now organizing these kind of workshops for districts with the highest incidence of teenage pregnancy. We are doing it in Accra, we are doing it in Kumasi, and then in Techiman and Sekondi, Takoradi.
The acting coordinator director of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, Mr. Ejukum Heni Eduamankwa, stressed the point that society's efforts at empowering women cannot be complete without addressing adolescent reproductive health, especially matters affecting the girl child.
Now, stakeholders, traditional and religious leaders, as well as individuals, have been called upon to support the government in the campaign to end child marriage. Mrs. Lordina Mahama, who made the call, also added that it is incumbent on society to protect children and support them to become responsible members before giving them away in marriage. Mrs. Mahama was speaking at separate derbes at Damba and Wenchi in the Bono Ahafo region. Theodora Amedato reports.
On her first ever working visit to Damba in the Bono Ahafo region, the First Lady, Mrs. Mahama, described the area as a unique environment with natural beauty that has become a major tourist attraction and is contributing to the tourism sector in the country. Here too, the First Lady presented food supplement, multivitamins, mosquito net, beds, and other health essentials to the Damba Health Center. She reiterated that the health of the people is vital to national development. The people and authorities of the hospital were grateful for the support. The Bandamainra Nana Obuchidom Kojo commended the government for fulfilling promises it made to improve the livelihood of the people in the area.
This is a
The donations of medical supplies to the Wenchi Hospital brings to 44 the number of health facilities that have so far benefited from the medical outreach program of the Lordina Foundation across 8 regions. Ms. Mahama was grateful to partner MedShare USA for continuously supporting the Lordina Foundation to stock public health facilities across the country, which in turn complements the government's effort at making Ghana a medical hub in West Africa. Mrs. Mahama stressed it is her heart's desire that parents and guardians would ensure that young girls are allowed to go to school instead of being married off at tender ages.
One issue that touches my heart as a mother, and I need to mention, is child marriage. Ghana recently joined other African states in the fight against child marriage by launching the End Child Marriage campaign at the recently held 7th African Conference on Sexual Health and Rights, which I hosted in Accra. I will entreat all stakeholders, traditional and religious leaders, and individuals to support government to achieve the aim of this campaign by intensifying their strategies towards ending child marriage in Ghana.
The Bono Ahafo Regional Minister, Mr. Eric Opoku, said support from the Lordina Foundation has contributed immensely to the development of the region. Theodora Amedato, GBC24, Bono Ahafo.
And that's all in this segment, brought to you by FPAC. The news continues. Please stay.
Welcome back now to some international news. Brazil's former president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, has taken up the chief of staff post in President Dilma Rousseff's government. The move shields Lula from possible prosecution by a federal judge investigating a massive corruption scandal named Operation Car Wash.
Under Brazilian law, cabinet members can only be tried by the Supreme Court. Lula was questioned weeks ago over allegations of money laundering connected to Operation Car Wash. As chief of staff, Lula is expected to lead the fight against moves in Congress to impeach President Rousseff over allegations she manipulated Brazil's accounts to hide a growing deficit.
Analysts say President Rousseff is hoping that Lula would use his political influence with members of Congress to block impeachment proceedings.
Coming up is sports.
Hello, time for us to bring you some updates from happenings in the world of sports. I'm Theophilus Sampa. We are being powered by JPS, Tornado, Bitters, and Lunat. FIFA wants to reclaim tens of millions of dollars taken illegally by its members and other organizations. It also says corruption officials who served on its former executive committee were guilty of selling their vote in World Cup bidding contest. Former officials Jack Blazer, Jack Warner, Jeffrey Webb are among those being sued by FIFA, which has submitted documents to U.S. authority. In total, 41 individuals and entities have been charged in the state. FIFA estimates millions of dollars were diverted from sports illegally through bribery, kickbacks, and corrupt schemes carried out by the defendant. World's football governing body has been in turmoil since May 2015 when a U.S. investigation exposed widespread corruption at the top level of the organization. Infantino, 45, was elected as FIFA president last month, replacing Sepp Blatter, who had been in charge of the governing body since 1998. Back home, head coach of the Black Stars, Avram Grant, has named as 23-man squad for this month's AFCON qualifier against Mozambique. The Black Stars will play against Mozambique in a double header beginning 24th of this month in Accra and the return leg 3 days later in Maputo. Here are the lineup. So, goalkeepers are Brahima Razak, Adam Korase, and Richard Ofori from Wa or Stars. Defenders are Harrison Afo, Daniel Amati, Jeffrey Schlop, Baba Rahman, John Boy, Jonathan Mensah, Edwin Chima. For the midfielders, we have Mohamed Rabiu, Emmanuel Ajeman Bedu, Ifriyakwa, Samuel Tete from Wafa, Mubarak Wakaso, Frank Echampon, Fred Duncan, Alfred Duncan, Christian Nachu, and the forwards are Captain Asamoah, Jordan Ayew, Abdul Majid Waris, Ebenezer Sifwa, and David Akam. The Emari Accra Sports Stadium will be live on GTV and GTV Sports Plus, same as the return leg. The ongoing Ghana Beach Soccer League produced 27 goals on match day 20. Gulf Powers Club was the only away team that recorded a win on the day. Gulf Powers Beach Soccer Club in the all-blue jersey played as guests to Sea Lions Beach Soccer Club. The end-to-end action was one of the match day 20 fixtures in the ongoing Cowbank Ghana Beach Soccer League in Accra. Some wonderful saves from the goalkeeper of Gulf Powers, Tete Williams, and a brace each from Quavy, Frederick, and Saki Jesus ensured Gulf Powers carried the day with 4 goals to 2. Kita Sunset Sport in the orange jersey also locked horns with the Golden Eagles. The lads from Kita had the better of the exchanges as they overpowered the Eagles in the keenly contested fixture. The encounter ended 3 goals to 1 in favor of Kita Sunset lads. There were some mixed reactions from coaches and players.
In the first leg, I did a little bit mistake and they won by 6-5. So I went back to correct my mistake so that the return encounter, I also do exactly what they did to me, and that's what I've done today.
We just want to maintain standards, like I said previously, in the Beach Soccer League. So we'll keep our focus on that and we want to end the season unbeaten, hopefully, God willing.
Here are other results after match day 20. Teshi United 3, Nungwa Beach Soccer 0, Sea Lions 2, Gulf Powers 4, Sunset Sports 3, Golden Eagles 1, Haveji Beach Soccer Club 3, Layoka 0, Winneba Giants 3, Tema United 0, Dansuma Beach Soccer Club 4, African Angels 4. The league continues this weekend at the Laboma Beach Soccer Arena in Accra. So that's all for sports.
Hello, good evening. Time for some arts news. My name is Valerie Danso. Takai is one of the oldest drum rhythms of the Dagomba, used in telling the story about how the Dagombas came to be so close to the Moses. Takai is usually performed by males who use body language and gesticulations to communicate the meaning of the dance. Our Heritage Month spotlight today is on the Takai dance.
Takai dance of the Dagombas depicts a folklore. There was a war between the Dagomba and the Mosi. In that conflict, a Dagomba woman went missing in the bush, only to be found later by a Mosi hunter. Years later, when another conflict broke out between the Dagomba and the Mosi, the women's history came to the fore. Reminiscence of the good gesture by the Mosi watered down any tensions between the two feuding tribes, and they halted the fighting. Combined, the drum language for all the past says, Chief says, listen, stop the fight. Like Torah and Bamaya, Takai is in the form of a suit or medley. Each section has its own name, musical phrases, and dance movements. The attire for the dance is the smock, which swings from one side to the other as the rigorous dance is performed. Wearing smocks that flare out when they wheel around, dancers strike roars to their front and rear on the cadence movement of the drum rhythm. The clacking sound of the dancer's rod is part of the overall percussive music of Takai.
It's believed to be a Boro dance from Nigeria, and then the people of Dagbamba accepted that from the traders, actually from the houses and the Mandingo people when the trades came. They came through the trade route. And so Islam settled at the north just because of the trade route. So during those times when the Dagbamba people used to celebrate, their festivities and other things, then the people also say, well, yeah, we also have some of our traditions that could help. So when the strangers performed the Takai dance, and saw how beautiful it was, the Dagombas inherited it.
The joy of performance comes from the way the drummers and dancers meet on the dance floor.
Have a good evening.
Good evening, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the Weather Report segment of the evening news. Recapping weather activities over the past 24 hours, rainfall was highest over Seshuri or so in the forest belt and lowest over Tamale in northern Ghana. However, let's indulge ourselves further and see how the weather is going to be like over the next 24 hours. For tomorrow morning through to the afternoon, we expect a partly cloudy atmosphere over the entire country, with possible isolated thunderstorms likely to affect all areas. In terms of temperature and humidity though, these are the variations that you're likely to expect. For tomorrow morning, a minimum of 25 degrees Celsius in temperature over northern Ghana, 24 and 26 over the middle and the coastal belt respectively. For the afternoon, a maximum temperature though of 39 degrees Celsius would affect northern Ghana and its surrounding areas. A range of between 35 and 37 over the middle and 33 degrees Celsius over the coastal areas. And last but not the least, for the case of humidity, it's likely to be normal across the entire country with the exception of the coastal belt where it will be high. Over the next 48 hours, we expect a slightly dry weather over northern Ghana, but here is the weather in detail. Stay tuned. Keep watching the Weather Report, proudly brought to you by RMG Ghana Limited. Do have a good night.
That's for News Hour. My name is Shirley Anan.
My name is Gifty AJ, and our announcer has been Robert Frimpon Manso. Thank you for watching. Good evening.